Welcome to Rock and Roll Fridays, a podcast on musical encounters and life. Welcome to Rock and Roll Fridays, and I'm so happy that I have a guest, so I don't have to talk, and I'm wearing my merch today, so buy your Rock and Roll Fridays merch. I am with Kevin Monko, who is a South Jersey legend, if you will. You've been described as a Renaissance man. I've read an article about you recently. Renaissance man, photographer, musician, writer, leader of a band, photographer, most recently doing drive-by portraits. So who are you, Kevin Monko?
Yeah, I'm really more of a Renaissance guy. I think Renaissance man is kind of pretentious.
Yeah.
So I'm good with guy.
We're all trying to be kids still, right? In this crazy world.
Yeah, I mean, it's keeping me alive. It's keeping me sane through all this craziness.
Yeah. We were talking about the craziness earlier. Kevin is.
Hey, I'm wearing some merch too.
Oh yeah, the Stay Negative merch. That is awesome. I was talking about it earlier today. Someone asked, "Do you see the guy that has the Stay Negative? I don't get it." And it's Stay Negative due to COVID.
Don't test positive.
It's a positive sign, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Kevin, you're
or you could just wear it sarcastically.
Or sarcastically.
Hey, stay negative, man.
Kevin's. You're heavily involved in the local music scene in South Jersey and in New Jersey. I definitely want to talk to you about, aside from COVID, where do you see local music going, given that, unfortunately, many local city venues in Philadelphia will probably close. And, what do you think the future is for local musicians and, what I call playing musicians, right? People that you see at a bar playing or local bands.
Yeah. Boy, it's hard to tease that out of the COVID thing, because there's just so many opportunities lost, and moving forward, it's hard to say really, Plus, it's weird because you were talking about Candy Volcano earlier, and I've never really been in a cover band or bands that would like go out and make any money, because you're like, like a wedding band or a band that just goes out and entertains people and can make I have a lot of friends who play in, cover bands and make a decent living doing that,
Right.
I've always played with people that write, like I write songs and I always play with people that do original stuff, and that's a tougher sell, I mean, it's more rewarding, in other ways, but there are a lot of, as far as like local places, there aren't a lot of places that really want to hear your original music. There's like an assumption that it's going to suck, I think.
Right. And I think being a fan of music and hearing, opening bands, right, and bands that you discover, I think people that truly love music are more receptive and open to original music, right? Would you agree that,
Sure.
Hearing, I like that song. Well, who's that band, right? And that's how bands, even locally, get discovered. And good music is good music, right? Where whomever it's coming from.
Sure, but there's also a long history of opening bands getting booed off the stage, and then I remember seeing. I went to see, who was it? It was Peter Gabriel on his first tour, his first solo tour. And I got there and some friends of mine were in the lobby. I was like, "Oh, what's the opening band?" And they're like, they suck. And I wound up not even going in, right? Because I'd run into these people and we're chatting and stuff. And then I talked to a friend of mine later who had the same experience, except he did go in and actually booed the opening band along with everybody else. And I think I don't know if he was at the Tower, it might have been a different show, but the band was Television. And Television became like one of my favorite bands for a long time. They're my favorite band,
Right. And also
wait, that's the band that like I could have walked, it's like I could have seen, it was so stupid, but
so for people the people that don't know Candy Volcano, how do you describe Candy Volcano? Because
it's pretty easy to describe. It's a I guess you'd call it a tribute band, but it's different. It's like the problem. Like I would never go see I've never gone to see a tribute band.
Right.
I don't really go see cover bands, you know, and if somebody described Candy Volcano to me, I don't even know if I would be persuaded to go see them because, well, they're a band playing David Bowie. It's all early 70s glam rock.
Right.
We do a lot of, but we do some Bowie shows that are strictly Bowie, like for Philly Loves Bowie Week. We do a show that, you know, like the kickoff to that. It's usually a TLA, like in January.
Right.
And, but the difference is like the thing I tend to not like about cover bands, tribute bands, is that they'll have a guy that's like, okay, and here's your David Bowie for the night. Here's your Freddie Mercury for the night. Okay,
Right.
I'm going to be
Right.
Neil Young or whoever it is. And it's what we do is like the last time we played, we had 19 different lead singers.
That's
so,
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So like everybody does one or two leads and we do a 2.5 hours. Like I think we did 32 songs the last show.
And seeing you guys, I've seen you guys, it actually gets the crowd energized in different ways because there's different lead singers coming out. There's people coming off stage, on stage. People are dressed differently. It's a unique.
Yeah, it's costumes. It's kind of a circus, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. Like, you know, even when I go see a band that I love or a performer that I love, but there's always some point in the show where I'm zoning out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get back in, you know, but there's always moments. And Candy Volcano shows just sort of don't have that by nature of the fact that, you know, the next person, like, oh, who's this? You know, oh, look at this one. You know, there's a new person coming up each time.
Yeah. And I think the other thing about Candy Volcano that compared to tribute bands, traditional tribute bands, is the musicianship. I think there's a level that the players are just really good musicians and it comes out.
Well, that's true. I mean, I've been lucky to get really good musicians to play in that band and stick with it. You know, like when we first put it together, I assumed it was a one-shot deal. You know, like we were doing it as a fundraiser for Bike Share, Collingswood Bike Share. And I figured, yeah, we'll do this show and then we'll all go on our way. But we had put a lot of effort in. We took it seriously and did a lot of rehearsing. And after the show, everybody, to a person, they were like, well, we're going to keep doing this, right? And I said, well, I will if you will. I didn't really think people would want to, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, so for, I don't know, it's been 7 years or something. And we've had some people come and go and, you know, and we have some interchangeable parts, but we've always been lucky to get people to, you know, the singers are great. The players are great. It's really fun matching people up with the, with the song they should do, you know,
Right.
Occasionally having to say like, well, maybe that's not really the right song for you, but you will kill on this song.
Yeah.
You know, and having to walk that line, you know. But
so I to my listeners, you should definitely check out Candy Volcano and YouTube videos and Facebook and Kevin, if there's anywhere else that they should check you out. I mean,
that's kind of it. Well, we have a website, candyvolcano.com. And I think we're getting it updated a little bit too, you know.
It's awesome. It's such a cool experience to see that show because of the energy level and all the players. You know, the whole point of my podcast is really the genesis was literally I've had the privilege of meeting rock stars. I somehow, some way have finagled my way in, bumped into, ran into, and I think we all have these stories where we meet famous people, whoever we consider famous, right? And everyone has a story. And I'm sure you have a story or two also of some famous musicians or famous bands in your world that you're like, oh, I can't believe I met them.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those. I remember like one night Mick Jagger and I we were just having coffee and like who should what? No, that didn't. Yeah, well, okay. One time I was in the Naples, Florida airport, and I get up to get a cup of coffee, and I see this guitar sitting on a table, no case or anything, and it looked like it was like a rectangular guitar, like Bo Diddley played.
Right.
Picture that guitar.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So on my way back, there's this guy sitting there with the guitar, and I said, hey, that's a cool guitar. Where'd you get that? And he said, oh, I made it. And I said, oh, you made that guitar? It's really nice. He said, yeah, thanks. I said, yeah, it looks like one of Bo Diddley's guitars. And he says, that's me.
Oh, man.
Bo Diddley, right?
That is awesome.
What? And then he wound up being like really nice, and we wound up we were waiting for, he was waiting for, what had happened was Hard Rock Cafe had called him and asked them if they could have one of his guitars to put in one of their, you know,
Wow.
in one of their spots. And so he said, so I went out in the garage and I made it. It's not like, oh, this is the guitar he played when
Right. I'm gonna make one.
I just went out and built one, you know. So, but then we wound up hanging out for like an hour, and he had just, this was probably 20 years ago, but he had just recorded some music, and he had like a little Walkman with a cassette thing. He's giving me his headphones, and we're listening to, you know, to the thing. It was great. It was
That's
fun.
awesome.
I think I have a business card of his, but it's kind of, I'm not sure where that was.
Did you find that, like, talking to him, like, you know, just like, people are just people, right? I mean, he's just he
was totally cool. He was just, we just had coffee and listened to music, you know.
That's
awesome.
It
was funny, the music, it still sounded like every Bo Diddley song that might come to mind, you know, where it's like women in the back, you know, it's the Bo Diddley beat, the rhythm guitar, and the women in the background going, Bo Diddley, Bo Diddley.
Right.
Like,
the same four blues chords or something.
Yeah, it was good.
That's awesome.
But he, you know, he had a thing, you know, he was cool. We went, another one was, the Clash was playing at Walnut Street Theater.
Oh,
in
wow.
Philadelphia. This was like right before London Calling came out. Like, they actually played some songs from London Calling. And I went with this woman she was Scottish, and she told me, she said, my sister says I know one of the guys in the band. I'm like, in the Clash? And I didn't, you know, I'd only just started listening to them, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that's cool. She goes, yeah, so I'm going to try to get backstage. And I said, great, you know, and she brought a note to send. So we're watching the show, and at some point she's like, I don't know anybody in this band. Like, I don't know what she's talking about. I'm like, oh, that's too bad. I was kind of looking forward to that. So we leave, and we're walking up, I guess it's 10th Street that runs along the side of the Walnut Street Theater. And we're just walking up the street talking, and there was kind of a crowd of people there that we had to skirt around. So I'm just like right up against the wall, kind of shimmying past this crowd. And as I'm walking there, the door flies open. Like, the guy literally, like, the door just misses me. He grabs me by he said, okay, I can let in a couple at a time. And he just yanks, like, literally yanks me in the door. And I grab, and I had no idea it was the stage door or anything, you know. So I grabbed the woman I was with. He pulls us inside. I go around the corner. Joe Strummer hands me a beer out of a big trash can of ice.
That's awesome.
And like, you know, I mean, he wasn't any kind of hero of mine at that point. Right. It would have been different had I met him years later, you know.
Right.
But that was fun. That's something to be able to.
Kind of the Clash before they were the Clash, right?
Yeah. Well, they were definitely the Clash. You know, It was an awesome show. You know, they were
wow.
fantastic.
I didn't even know they had shows at the Wall Street. There.
Yeah, it was unusual. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, I've never seen another rock show there.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. Those are two awesome stories.
You might be able to go see My Fair Lady there.
Yeah, of course. So what?
Hey, by the way, I'm not growing a beard. I'm just like a total slob. Like seeing myself. Yeah. My mother would tell me to take a little pride in my personal appearance.
Here's a question I always ask everyone. What's it about music? You know, people talk about.
I know. What's it?
Talk about music, write about music, write books about music, record. You know, there's so much industry around music. But why does it matter? What is the kind of Kevin Monko mantra around music, and why is it so important?
Yeah, that's a good question, because, you know, I've met people who've literally told me, like, yeah, I don't really get music.
Me too.
You know, like,
me
you
too.
know, and like, at all, you know, it's like, yeah, I don't listen, I don't get it, you know. It's like I remember somebody one time was, he was like, you know, that music that like it doesn't have any words, you know, that stuff, like you'll hear a thing and it's like there's instruments playing but there aren't any words.
Right.
it's called music. Like that
Yeah.
is music. You know?
I think what's worse than the person, I dated a person that didn't like music, but what's worse than dating a person that doesn't like music is the person that says, "Oh, this sucks." And I'm like, "Oh, actually that's Miles Davis."
Yeah,
Like,
right,
you
right.
know, like the person that is judgmental that doesn't know what good music is.
Yeah, yeah. Or find something like it's like unlistenable. You
Right.
know, it's like I love that. You know. Or I saw one recently that you know, a lot of times people do their top 10 albums and so on, and one of them that shows up a lot among people that I see is Trout Mask Replica, the Captain Beefheart album.
Yeah.
And then I saw a comment recently where somebody was saying, yeah, you know, those people that they always put Trout Mask Replica on their list of top 10, but you know nobody listens to that. You know that everybody hates that. And it's
Right.
like, oh my God, like I love that so much.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
I can't say I was like inspired by it in the sense that, you know, I don't write songs that sound like that, like Captain Beefheart's, you know, but it definitely inspired me in a lot of ways artistically, you know. And I like stuff that gets weird, but I like stuff that's you know, he came from like a sort of traditional place, you know,
Yeah.
and then kind of expounded on it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in any case,
Right. I
yeah.
always
So
say,
what is it with music? I mean, to me, music was like a soundtrack of my life, you know, like it's something, whatever I might have been going through, I'd gravitate to different things that like, you know, kind of would, you know, spiritually like stay with me, you know, songs that will, you know, come to me in moments that I need them, you know, or
absolutely.
just, you know, is befitting.
I think it's also the collective, right? Music is a collective, you know, it can be a solo experience, but I think it's best when it's a collective experience, when it's
Well, I mean,
concert
yeah, yeah,
parties, right? Where
yeah,
people are head nodding together and listening to music, and definitely concerts, which are so missed right now because of that collective social experience.
sure. And I honestly, I've really learned that lesson with Candy Volcano because, you know, we had done, we were doing a mixed glam rock thing, you know, so it's all early 70s glam rock. So it was like Bowie and T-Rex, but then like Mott the Hoople. And we kind of get out of like what's traditionally called glam rock, and we do, you know, Queen and New York Dolls. So, I mean, it was an Alice Cooper song. I mean, it was, you know, but it was all early 70s stuff.
Yeah.
And we were booked to do that at the TLA when Bowie died.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 2 weeks before he died. I think it was about 2 weeks, could have been 2.5 weeks, I don't know. And I said, well, you know, I mean, we're going to have to make this just all Bowie, you know, and we didn't have that all together. I mean, we knew a lot of Bowie songs. And so we scrambled and went back, you know, got back in the studio, did a bunch of rehearsing, and we went out and did it. And because it was still such a fresh wound, you know, people were so into it and so grateful for it.
Yeah.
That
They
I've
needed
never
it.
had an experience like that.
They needed it, right? They needed it.
And we needed it, you know, because like the people that are in the band, almost all of us were Bowie fans. I mean, there are some people in the band that, you know some songs and they're good singers, or, you know, but the majority, you know, we love doing the Bowie stuff.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
And it was so weird because it also happened to be on my birthday, right? We're doing this show. And after and so the show wraps up, and to me, it was like the best birthday gift I could have ever had, you know. And it was like just what everybody needed, and there was like so much love on stage, and in the audience, you could see like people were hugging and swaying, you know. And then afterwards, people were thanking me, you know, like, thank you, like I really needed that, you know. It's like, well, you know, thank you for like,
Right.
you know, like making this happen, you know, like you needed, you really needed everybody to make something like that happen.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's a group thing.
That's awesome. Kevin, I want to thank you for talking on Rock and Roll Fridays, talking about music, Candy Volcano, meeting Bo Diddley, meeting the Clash, and just your
I should say you should check out our other, I play in a couple other bands too. Charming Snakes is sort of in the process of getting back together for the 10th time. We get together and then we break up and then get together a year later and do it again. So we might be doing that. And then my original stuff is Monko. That band is Monko, and that's the band where I'm doing the stuff that I write.
Awesome. And Kevin, thanks so much for being on Rock and Roll Fridays.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun to yak.
Yeah, awesome.
I enjoy yakking.